Welcome to another installment of Fail Forward Friday, and thank you all for tuning in. I'm with my chairman here.
Roche Mamabulo.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I'm Malesela and Doc Roche, for those that don't know us. And yes, remember, Fail Forward Friday is all about learning, right? We take stories, international, local stories that of entrepreneurs, businesses, managers that have failed in some part or some way, and some of them that have failed forward, meaning they've gotten back up and they learned from their mistakes, and some of them that have failed and did not recover after that.
And still struggling, and nations.
In fact, and organizations,
countries, leaders.
Yeah, we should do a one about a church.
The comment section.
And there are stories. There are so many.
That's what I'm saying. We must do one about a church because, hey, churches out here.
Yeah, it will be a popular episode.
Yes, remember, as you see, Doc and I are here together, and it only means, it's part 2 of what we did last week. And yes, we are with Mr. Gabuza himself. You want to introduce yourself?
Thank you for having me again. You see, I didn't get fired, guys. If you watch part 1, you should go and watch it.
Yeah,
yes.
It was very close.
It was very close. We had a rocky start, but we're here. Thank you for having me, guys. And really, it's always great to have a conversation with you guys.
Yeah. So, Doc, do you want to maybe recap?
Yeah. So, part 1,
yes.
We obviously discussed Japan.
The
lost decade. The fact that after World War II, in fact, World War II, most of the countries that were clobbered,
yes,
Japan,
Germany,
right?
You could even say Italy, actually, as well.
After the World War II, they managed to rebuild themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was because of the guilt conscience that the winners of the World War II felt, and they kind of like had this, empowerment, rebuilding. Okay, we clobbered you, but let's get it together.
Yes, yes. They don't do that again.
And you then had these countries rising up and challenging, actually, the incumbents, the US. And Japan was the case in point because, their manufacturing, prowess, but also the fact that they were able to sell en masse quite a lot of the products to the US.
Yes.
And then, of course, there was the Plaza Hotel meeting,
yes,
where the G5 came through, and Japan was also part of it, and obviously that they had to devalue or somehow
basically value appreciate increase the value of the yen relative to the dollar.
Expensive for Japanese products to be bought. So it's pretty much like a tariff kind of a thing. To discourage American.
And they had introduced tariffs, in fact, before the Plaza, in the years leading up to.
And then of course the discussion went into
nations,
but also the aging Japanese
population.
Because I was actually reading a book, The Ikigai, right? This whole guide to how people live long. And part of the research that the authors did on Ikigai, they had to go to Japan because Japan is the country that has got the most number sentinels. But he was looking at it from a lifestyle point of view, right? But we know that Japan also has a serious issue because an aging population means it affects productivity. Because if you have a lot of the people who are not working in a country and few people are working in the country, then it makes it very difficult to produce and sell. Because the majority of the people are not actively working. And obviously that led to us to let's actually have a discussion on what makes nations, looking at Japan, and obviously looking at some of the...
Like China was one of the examples that we gave last week, right?
And looking at what makes them thrive and what makes them fail. Right? And this being a Fail Forward Friday show, we look at, some of the lessons that I think we in South Africa need to learn.
Absolutely.
100%.
So I don't know if you want to take over from the age, because I think one of the things that I was pushing was the fact that, and we were discussing this earlier on, that Japan is still number 4 or 5
What, as an economy?
As the economy, yeah.
Are they?
I think the World Bank estimate has them at 4.
Yeah.
And then the IMF has them at 5.
Oh, hectic. Yeah. That's crazy.
So they're still there amongst the...
Yeah. But it's because also, I think the one thing that you cannot fault Japan for is their processes is still why they're number 4 5.
World-class processes.
100%. And because the processes are in place, it's very hard to fail.
And also, I was actually watching a podcast yesterday, another podcast, about like how...
Are you cheating on us? I'm joking.
Hey, you see now I'm getting myself back into dangerous territory. But they were basically talking about like how strong institutions reinforce a country to the point of, we have on the table, for those who don't know, why nations fail. Nations succeed because people need to have confidence in the institutions for them to survive, and because people want to invest and put money in places they know it will stay safe. Not the next day some guy in a military uniform says we are nationalizing all deposits, overnight, things like that, and so to your point, Japan I think also succeeds because their institutions are strong. And you don't have the fear that one day there'll be like some populist leader who will go and turn things upside down for example.
So talking about that, right? Maybe let's go. I sent Doc this video this past week about it's this channel on YouTube called Cold Fusion, and they were speaking about how Japan's population. Aging population is a problem. And it comes back to what we're kind of like saying, but let me lay out the ground here. So the whole idea was that, look, Japan's population and most of these Asian countries' population it's very lopsided. So there's growing age that is retiring, and not as many of the young people coming up. In fact, in Japan, and this is actually insane. In Japan, there's 2 cities. Or 2 towns, I could put a city town. And in those 2 towns or cities, the average age of one of the towns was 60 something.
Is it those places in Okinawa? I think I know there are places in Okinawa that have really old populations, and they live longer than anywhere else in the world as well.
Well, they're living longer, but the problem is that there's no one taking care of them. Now, one of the cities, only in the last 2 years or so, in the last year, had their first birth, right, in more than 20 years. Their first birth. It's insane. You know what I mean?
And there are more, and apparently, don't quote me on this one. Apparently, Japan sells more adult diapers than children's diapers. And it's also crazy. The average age of a farmer in Japan now is like 70.
Yeah, look, it's crazy. Now, another thing they were saying, last year, 2024, there were 750,000 births versus 1.45 million deaths. So they're actually decreasing in population from that point.
Yeah, because there's a stat, and I watched that link you shared. The stat says in order for you to maintain, the ratio of economic growth
versus
people coming and dying is 2.1.
Yes.
Right. 2.5 basically on average 2 kids. But in Japan, I think it was
still 0.
I think it's dipped below 1.
It's dipped below 1.
And obviously it means that they're not putting into the economy far more than people coming out.
Yes.
And one of the things that obviously when we talk about aging, in the whole world of woke culture is ageism. People always want to say, you guys are ageist, right? If you
what is the ageist now, Doc? I don't even know.
Discrimination.
So there was this whole thing about...
Don't worry, Doc. We got you.
Anyway. So there was this whole thing about Joe Biden.
Yes.
About Joe Biden and his age. And some people will say, no, but, he's got the right, he's been voted. But I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's a biology thing.
Yeah.
To say, is he
Is he sharp?
Is he sharp enough to
Yes.
operate at that level?
Yes.
Not that I'm, you know.
There's some people
Not being
that
an
are
ageist.
No.
no, but and I do agree, Doc.
Yeah, I think being a president of a country like the US, you need to be at your sharpest.
Yeah.
Right? And he you know, at some point you would forget where he was, you forget his lines and things like that. And I think the thing with Japan is the fact that, for me, from where I'm sitting, is who's then going to take care of
The people,
economy,
yeah.
right? Because the economy has to keep on
Running, yeah. So all these processes are in place,
Yeah.
but the economy, the people that are supposed to take care of it
Yeah.
are not actually
and
coming up.
and the issue of pensions. Who's going to pay all these pensions when
part
most
of
of
it-
your population
So, but
is not?
part of it was is that the problem is, and they showed this graph where on the y-axis, on the y-axis, obviously it's all the years, you know, and how at the top it's so broad, and then it comes in like that, you know. So it's an upside down triangle basically, and how the problem is these guys need to actually start paying taxes. You know, these ones aren't paying taxes anymore. Now these ones need to take care of this. Now you're in a place where
Most
the
of the
pressure is
population.
so much that you actually, so it's actually a revolting issue, because now the pressure of taking care of the elder is much more than you say to yourself, listen, I can't afford to have kids. And because I can't afford to have kids, it just becomes a slippery slope of less than.
And I think that's the thing to say. How did Japan get there?
Yeah.
Right, and it's precisely because of the fact that there's work pressure.
Yes.
You know, and not in a bad way, but to say that women are getting more educated now.
Yeah.
And obviously, research shows that
The more
educated the women, the less kids they have.
Yes.
Right? And some, it's not even less kids, it's, you know, no kids at all.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Because of the economic
Pressures,
you know,
yeah.
of taking care of kids and buying a house, and
Yes.
raising those kids in a safe environment,
Yes.
giving them the best education. So things are expensive. So couples then decide not to have kids.
Yeah.
Right. But also, I mean, this is what scared me. The whole thing that they choose to have relationships with AI.
Oh yeah, with the AI bots and
With the
stuff.
AI bots.
Like that, I thought it was not real, but I was like, okay, well,
Yeah, no, I've
in this
heard
world,
that. I've heard
it's
that.
actually
And there's
the one
also,
that got married to
yes.
us. Yeah,
And there's also the in Japan the rise in something called herbivore men, men who've basically decided that they won't engage the opposite sex. There's also people who have decided to become recluses
Yes.
as well, who were victims of the lost decade that we had discussed in part one. They couldn't
and those
get
are the
jobs.
millennials. Yeah,
Exactly. Younger Gen Z, members of Gen Z up until the millennial generation. So these things do have a problem. And this is also to your point, Doc, about work pressure and how like lower productivity, because of the archaic reporting structures and so on, meant that they tried to compensate with longer hours. So they work longer hours. You can't have children in that period.
Yeah.
And you see this throughout the East Asian countries. In China, there's a concept called 996,
Yes.
where you work
So the tech companies.
9 to 9, 6 days
Yeah.
a week. And a lot of young Chinese people, young millennials and Gen Z, are saying we're not gonna have children because one, we're working all the time.
Yeah.
Who's gonna look after these kids?
Yeah.
And also just nobody wants to bring people into an environment that competitive.
Well, and the problem with that, and I think with China, it's more so that it's not that they can't afford. They actually, most of them are actually at their peak. They average earning rates, especially in the tech industries, are high. But again, because they're working so much, they don't have the time to actually, have babies. And when are you going to spend time with the babies? Because you could always ship the baby off to a crash, but
And there's
after
also
that,
the expectation, I mean, it's worldwide, the expectation that women are supposed to take care of, children. But how can they do that? I know that's a huge thing in South Korea as well, which also has a declining population
Well, yeah.
as well. So we were talking just before the end of part one about how the same things that can build your economy, if you don't adjust and pivot, as you grow, you can fall into the trap of those things being the very things that bring you down. And we're seeing that in Asia, the quick industrialization, the strong work ethic, strong work culture can in some ways slow down your progress later on, because people can't have children because of the environment and things of that nature.
So and I think what I find also very interesting is you become a victim of your own success.
Yeah.
Because Japan has done so well, and also I mean, one can argue that because of globalization and also because they have adopted Western ways of living, that it's a cutthroat environment, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think about quite a lot is the metrics of how do we define success. Right?
Yeah.
If you look at Nordic countries, Norway, Denmark and all these things.
The happiest countries in the world.
The happiest countries in the world. They have taken a conscious decision that they're not going to define happiness in terms of,
money and being the best in the world.
Production and all those things. Yeah.
The top 10, biggest economies in the world and all those kind of things. So they have actually taken a different approach with the quality of life. It's far more important.
I know. To your point, Doc, Sweden's education system as well is very. It encourages independent thinking, thinking outside of the box, and basically very different to what we understand. Produces strong citizens. Yet they still, have strong outcomes economically, despite that.
So the question therefore comes, and I'm throwing it out there: Africa having the youngest population in the world, but kind of having the oldest leaders.
That they're leading,
I mean, I was looking at a list of some of the oldest leaders, and most of them
are African.
Right. So I'm trying to understand that thing, to say, what's up with that? How is it that a continent, because I wouldn't want to say a country, but a continent that has got the young people, and which people say it's a demographic dividend, that we have an advantage, but it's a very thin line to say also that actually it can also be a demographic liability as well, because if these economically active kids or young people are not part of the decision making, because the people who are making the decisions are not going to be there. Right? So how do you reconcile that with what's happening globally in the world?
So I think maybe to one step back, Doc, I think there's a difference between what's happening in like your Japans and your Chinas and the older generation kind of thing, deficit, and what's happening in Africa. Because in those countries as well, there's a form of structure. And the problem is in Africa, we don't have structure. And even if, for instance, we put these younger people in power, the fact that there's no structure to build on, and if the young people don't even know or even are educated enough to do that, then it doesn't actually help that we might as well have the youngest generation just to go work in mines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not have the minds to actually...
So it's a governance thing.
It's a governance thing.
To your point, I was reading an excerpt from an article, funny enough, it was about South Africa, about like how we just off camera, we actually talking about it. They were talking about like how initially in most cases, countries that tend to not do well because they don't have the structures to do well. And it's almost like a horse, a cart, a caught in a cart, a chicken and the egg sort of situation that usually what happens is that there'll be one strong figure who will then guide in the absence of institutions, who will then guide and push. That's why you see that in all of these countries that we were talking about that were successful in the 20th century, you know, your Chinas, your Japans, your Koreas, they had like strong figures who would drive success, and then the institutions would reinforce the success that was already created. But now the problem with African countries is that the strong leaders who will drive success for various reasons. You know, sometimes there is geopolitical meddling. Sometimes it's just, you know, people are those people. You know, they just haven't been around, and the lack of that initial spark, you know, to create is the reason why. And South Africa is an interesting case because we have on the surface institutions, you know, the judiciary, constitution, so on and so forth. But now we're in that limbo where our institutions don't necessarily do what they do because we don't have the leadership to reinforce the institutions in the first place. So we have we have this two countries in one sort of situation for that reason.
So these guys, Aaron Akimatlu and James Robinson, this book won the Nobel.
Oh, hectic.
Yeah, I know.
So they talk about what makes nations succeed, what makes nations fail.
Are they economists?
Yes.
Yeah, always.
What? You have something against economists?
No, it's like, economists are, economists are brilliant because of how they think, right? In a macro versus micro. You can take something so big and break it down all the way to why it's so big, which I like. But it's like the only people that actually, in a way, can think like that.
It's fascinating. No, it is fascinating how, like, they can take things that you think are seemingly disconnected and make them like...
Yes. But
because what these guys did is they looked at what makes, you know, and to your point, what we usually think would be what makes countries succeed. So people, it's like, no, it's a geography. So there's this whole thing about the global north and versus the global south. So it's a geography thing. And they said, actually, no, it's not really a geography thing, because if you look at, you know, take the global north. So if you look at Mexico and the US.
Similar geography,
They're just, you know, the war.
The
famous war. But both of them are quite different. And they looked at, for instance, North Korea, South Korea.
Yes.
I mean, these are
literally the same countries with the same with similar cultures.
These are cousins. Basically. But, you know, North and South Korea,
totally different.
You know, and you can argue South Africa, Zimbabwe, for instance.
And there was to your point, there was an argument that, you know, the lack of the adoption of the wheel on the African continent is the reason why it developed. It's the reason why it didn't develop the way the global north did, which I found.
Okay. So they look at all these things that we think makes countries successful or not successful, right? And they basically say, no. It's not geography, it's not weather, it's not, you know, whatever. What they talk about, and to your point, is that, Mr. Gabuza, is that institutions play a very strong role. So they have this difference. They say they are extractive institutions and inclusive institutions.
Yes.
So what is inclusive? Inclusive is institutions that are able to, I mean, as the word says, they are able to work in the inclusion of everybody in the economy. Extractive institutions are institutions that the leaders are only working for the benefit of few. And, you know, your oligarchs type of a thing, where they're extracting institutions. So, I mean, there was a whole thing in South Africa about one of the CEOs of a big government thing who was found in corruption and, you know, the whole...
the one with the video.
With the video.
Yeah.
So that's an example of an extractive institution.
They
extract for their own personal gains.
Yeah.
So if you then have all these institutions that are supposed to be inclusive, but are only extractive. And I mean, I'm willing to argue that Africa has got a whole lot of those extractive institutions that are only benefiting few people.
Obviously, that is... why they have it is a different story, because I still believe that the past made it that the future, it's those things where it's a curse that always went because of what happened in the past.
Look, I don't know for sure. One can also argue that Botswana didn't have that.
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
And that's what Botswana... Well, that's what made
grew as fast as it did.
As it did, because it didn't have that mindset.
Yes.
But I think also one of the other reasons, I mean, there's a whole lot of other reasons. Leadership also is important, but also that one of the things that you cite is also the fact that countries who have done very well then tended to focus on celebrating their success, right? That they spend most of their time looking back.
Yes.
Than preparing for the future.
Yeah.
And Botswana comes into the equation as well.
Yeah.
That because they've done very well in the past 50
years. And everybody clapped for them.
They've done very well in the past 50, 55 years of independence. Good governance, and they didn't suffer resource scarce like most African countries did. Stable democracy, transition of power from blah, blah, blah. But now they find themselves and they come to realize that actually diamonds are not forever.
Yes.
And it turns out they're not even a girl's best friend.
It's just a lie.
anymore.
Yeah.
But they still have, also maybe it's because they were comfortable.
Yeah.
They were comfortable because everybody was clapping for them, that they forgot that we have to get back to work and build the future. How do we build going forward? Right? How do we diversify the economy? How do we open it up? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing, that they were more focused on the past and not on the future.
In the future, yeah.
The other reason we discussed it as well is how open is the country to getting the best skills into the country, right? We also spoke about Dubai, to say what Dubai, if you were to rewind to 1980, Botswana and Dubai were in the same level. Small population, homogeneous, resourced, quite a heavy resourced Dubai with oil, Botswana with diamonds, semi-desert country, so to speak. Well, obviously, Dubai is not landlocked, right? But they had quite a lot of similarities. And if you fast forward from 1980 to currently, you'll then see what Dubai did is they opened themselves. And they attracted the best skills.
Yes.
And they used their mineral resources to pay the best skills, right? Where now, if you were to look at the population of Dubai, 12 whatever million, only 2 million are locals. Right? The 10 million are experts who are bringing skills into the country. Botswana didn't do that. They closed themselves. So you can argue that even the US, that's the approach
metropolitan, like you say.
They opened themselves.
Yeah.
You have the
Singapore made it a point to educate their employee their population and making English a medium of instruction so that they could again attract skills. A similar thing happened in Hong Kong before the Chinese took over as well, and that's why they were
so they opened themselves up. I mean, you have a situation where you have Einstein, who's
going to the US.
Germany, and he decides, I want to relocate.
I mean, most of a lot of those nuclear scientists, I don't know if most, but a lot of the nuclear scientists were actually taken from
Russia,
Germany.
And based on that, they were able to attract the best skills.
Yeah.
And
the best builds, obviously.
I mean, India with the tech industry, where you have, the CEOs are running those tech companies.
In India,
right?
Yeah. It's starting to become a commonplace now, but Nigerians as well in the US are starting to become a...
True. So there are all this, ingredients for nations to succeed, right? Strong institutions, strong independent institutions that are inclusive, openness, focusing on building, diversifying the economy, building for the future. But countries that fail, unfortunately, do the opposite. Right? I don't think China failed because Japan.
Yeah.
They failed because they didn't have strong institutions. I just think they
got comfortable.
They got comfortable.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and they didn't think about building for the future.
And
right?
look, let's. So we're saying you don't think that Japan failed. They actually haven't failed. You know what I mean?
They stayed the same, yeah.
Yeah, they stayed the same, but they're just slipping behind. Let's put it that way. It's just, look, one man's floor is another man's ceiling. What we deem, what they deem failure is because they're not where they used to be and where they could be.
And not where they were expected to be, so to speak,
Yeah, and on our side, I would love to be Japan. You know what I mean? As South Africa. Because institutions work, things work. Someone can decide, listen, let's build a high-speed train that's the fastest in the world. And you do it, and it actually helps you.
Yeah.
And there was a popular video a few years back where there was a road in Japan that was it a bridge that had been damaged by earthquake damage, and they rebuilt it within a few days. We all know what happened with that sinkhole in Centurion. In fact, if you go around the military areas, the Centurion Valhallas, they still haven't rebuilt.
There are some sinkholes that still are not.
So I want to go back to talking about South Africa. I want to go back to why you say there's certain types of certain two countries in one, right? Where there's a country that kind of works and the other one that doesn't necessarily work. I think the only reason it kind of works is that we took the institution of what used to work in the past. And the problem is the same institution that used to work in the past, we never had a handover. You know, when you leave a company, you have to do the handover so that someone kind of it just seamlessly goes. That didn't necessarily happen with us. And that's why I think we in this limbo as well, kind of thing where we are falling, but we're very, when someone is falling very slowly, you're like, when I saw you that you were falling.
I will also make the very controversial argument that the leadership that was brought to bring over the handover was not necessarily primed or prepared to lead a country in the first place. If there are certain, if you read, I know it's not a popular thing, but if there were certain disciplinary issues, during the exile period, MK, ANC, that were never dealt with by ANC leaders of their day. And those very same disciplinary issues are now evident in the ANC that governs. So because they never dealt with the leadership issues, that generation that came after the older generation was never primed to lead in the first place. And so now they're doing the very same things they were doing in exile.
It's hard though. I don't think there's any country, I can't think of any country in the world that there were the fighters that did not take over in them leading. I don't think there is. I mean,
no, there
China,
isn't. Yeah, there isn't.
You know what I mean?
The CCP took over.
Yeah, CCP took over, and in fact, when he put someone in place, that person started doing what Western guys did. He's like, he took it back. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, the vision is with the person that decided, let's fight.
Let's fight, yeah.
Look, I mean, and I will sound a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Even when China CCP took over, they failed. I mean,
the Great Leap Forward. I mean, millions of people died.
Yes.
The Great Famine.
Yes.
It was because of the policy.
The same thing happened in the USSR.
Yes.
Famine. Starvation. All these things. Yeah.
So my contention has always been, and I mean, I'm asking myself this question over and over, and I'm slowly getting convinced that the system that we have adopted, whether it's in South Africa or it's in the US, that system does not work. Where you choose somebody to build a country based on the fact that
they fought.
No, that they can charm you to vote for them.
Oh, you mean that's worlds, dog.
Right?
That's salesmen.
But that's what I'm saying. That system
does
not work.
Yeah.
Because it's showing now that I'm beginning to see the correlation between the fact that you are this charismatic guy and because you're charismatic, it's equivalent to you being able to build something.
Right? Oh yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So and I'm leaning towards the meritocratic system.
Yeah.
Where if you are to lead anything, you need to have proven that you
led somewhere else,
built something.
Oh, you mean practically?
I mean,
the fruits.
If you look at China, for instance, and you trace back to how Xi became president.
Yeah,
he started running. So they'll say
at the bottom with other,
they'll say there's Kaline, some small town.
Yeah,
right. run that city, attract investment, build something, just let the city work.
Sure.
And then if you can show that it works, then they give you Pretoria.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then you do the same with Pretoria, then they give you a province.
Yes.
And then I think she did 2 provinces.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know, and from there, then they say, okay, you are now qualified.
Yeah,
to
and
move
actually
to
he
the
built the charisma with those 2 provinces, knowing the people on the ground.
Yeah,
he did the ground.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
he
say
did the
they
groundwork.
say he did, and they also say that he built good relationships with people
Yes.
that people didn't necessarily thought was
Yes.
important. Like for example, he made it a point to have a good rapport with military.
Yes.
It's from the time he was leading a province already.
Yes.
Yes.
So it helped him later on garner support.
Yeah.
You know, so having that. To your point, we were talking about forward-thinking leaders.
Yes.
He was forward-thinking,
Yeah.
you know, in the way that he approached relationship building, you know, engaging stakeholders and all of those things, and that led him to the top.
But
so it is
can
important.
we agree that it doesn't mean if you do this all the time, it will work all the time?
Well, of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, not everything works 100% all the time.
Because I'm thinking, I don't think Xi Jinping is the only one that did it in China, and yet he's the president.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And we don't know.
A lot of things have to, but I think there comes the point where you have to position yourself to take the opportunity in the first place. And I think I'm sure an opportunity arose for him, but he had to be there. He had to get there
for sure.
first. Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is you are guaranteed that should he leave and someone comes in,
Similar.
the continuation will go, right?
There has to be a pattern.
Yes.
So the reason I'm saying that as well, Doc, is there's still the element of, let's say you've built this tower, right? Now you get you literally from the ground, Maslow, you there's a strong basis. And then you build yourself all the way up until you're president or you're this main person in the company, let's say. But when you're there, the succession plan is where the problem is. Because under you, there's at least 2 people. Under them, there's 3 people. Under them, there's 4 people, and so forth. All of these guys are gunning all for the top job. So this person, and so Ray Dalio obviously mentions how the switching of the world order, how it happens, right? So in all of this, there's these 2 people that are gunning for the top position. One is not saying, no, don't worry, you go. You know what I mean? It's not like that, right?
Yeah.
I've worked my way up and I want to see myself there. True. And then when you don't, it's the same with, we did that Jack Welch book, The Man Who Destroyed the Capitalism, where he got all the way up, he brought all of this ideology that worked for him. Now, he put someone in place, but the second person that was also there feels like, nah, dude, I'm not going to be led by the guy that was just like me. He leaves, he goes somewhere else.
And there was a guy, I forget his name. There was a guy in China that was supposed to be the top, but then she and his cohort purged him.
I mean,
they won the battle,
Of course, there will always be the jockeying for position. For me, it's better to have people who have proven themselves, right, track record wise, have built things, right, that are jockeying for position, and than somebody who has not built anything.
Fair.
But because I can so you have a situation where and I'm willing to argue that Donald Trump would never be president in China, never. He doesn't qualify, right? But the danger with the American system is you have Trump now, who basically has not leveraged his father's legacy. And there's questions about his...
You say he leveraged his father's legacy.
Remember, he was given,
But he did well. That's the difference.
Well, there's arguments.
You can't... the man took 1 billion and made it 15 billion.
No, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's also
and you can't... And generally... In the history of modern America, politics has always been a game of all of these. The Obamas and so are exceptions to a rule. It was always elite families who think it, and so.
That's what I'm saying. That he leveraged from that background.
Yes.
But he's destroying institutions now, right? The very same institutions that I remember listening to Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett a couple of years ago, before Obama became did, no, not Obama,
Trump.
before Trump did his first term.
Yeah.
And they were asking Warren to say, do you think America would lose this? Like what America's built. Do you think America can lose their superpower position?
Yeah.
Right? And Warren was like, no, he doesn't think so. For a number of reasons. One, because we're able to attract the best talent.
Yes.
Everybody wants to go to, well, not everybody, but the best talent, you know, they look at if they were to relocate anywhere in the world,
they want to go to
the
America.
US.
Yeah.
So he says, for as long as we have that, you
Yeah.
know, people will still want to come. Therefore, we'll still attract the best brains. Two, we have strong institutions.
Yeah.
Even if you had to get the dumbest person to be the president,
Yeah.
the damage that he can do
It's only so much.
very so much. It's
Yeah.
minimum because the institutions will kick in.
Yeah.
Right. But I wonder if he still feels the same now because Trump is not. You know, he's destroying this. I mean, only recently he fired the statistician general because he didn't like the numbers.
He wants to fire the head of the chairman of the Fed as well. Yeah.
You know, and if he could, he doesn't have those powers, right?
Yeah.
But if he could, he would fire him. What is he doing? He's actually destroying the institutions, and now these institutions are now becoming extractive because they're going to serve only what he wants.
Yeah.
Right?
But Doc, there's a different. I think so. Again, maybe I'm a bit controversial as well. To a certain point, he's doing what he would do in business to grow business.
Yeah. But you see, he's destroying.
Yes, what has already been built.
What has already been built, but
Yes.
also the question therefore is he, and I think this is where the whole credibility, that was he really a good businessman? Because there are instances where they're saying he even got bankrupt and all this kind of things.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, the biggest people you learn forward, right? Yeah.
But I think for me the question is, if there's a point in history where we have to look back and talk about how the US started taking a different turn, one of the things will be Trump's.
Well, I think time will tell, obviously, if what he's doing was right or wrong, because ultimately, I mean, he will kill off what is now, right? Sometimes you have to destroy what's there now to build back up, basically. Almost like what Xi Jinping actually did that, right? He didn't take what the old, when they took over, he made it his own.
Well, sure, but remember how China became where it is now is because Dao Jinping came and said this whole communism, the way we are doing it is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, the famous, I don't care whether the cat is black or white.
As long as the check,
yes. Which basically meant that we need to relook at the fact that communism in its purest form
it's not
sustainable.
It has to have,
So we need to have an element of free enterprise that comes in, and then we are then able to combine the two.
Yeah.
Right? The state will still...
And he studied Japan and Singapore.
And what she did is he built on that.
Yeah.
Right? He built on that philosophy.
Yeah.
He won't accept, but, you know, they talk about communism with Chinese characteristics. That's what they call it. But it is free enterprise.
It's state capitalism. Effectively.
And what that meant from the whole Deng Xiaoping's thing, it meant that we, as China, we need to open ourselves up to the world.
Yes.
Which means that we need to start
globalization.
We need to start embracing, going to the world and start doing all these things. Right? What Trump is doing is the opposite. He's closing the country.
Isolation.
He's isolating the country. He's chasing the best brains out of China, out of the US. And he's saying he's tariffing everybody. He's building relationships that made the US to be what
he's building it on fear.
Yes, basically. But also he's damaging the brand because suddenly people will not trust the US anymore, right? Because
you're one election away from losing favor with them.
With them. So, and you now have countries that were not talking before, now they're talking. Like Japan now is talking to China, for instance. And they never spoke because they were quite comfortable with the US.
The EU is starting to become a lot more insular as well.
They're coming to come together.
And I think he's basically, I think Trump is obviously trying to, he wants to, he's shaking up globalization. That's basically what he's doing. He's saying an export country does better than an import country. which is basically what happened with Japan, if you think of it. Because Japan did so well when it did well because they were exporting more than they were importing. And that's
trade surplus.
But the question is, will the US export?
But they definitely will.
No, I don't think so.
You know why I say they definitely will? They have companies that are so established that it becomes easier because
they don't have the work ethic.
I think
no,
it's not I think we spoke about this. Was it after the pod? But we did have a similar conversation about how I think it will be predicated on what and how they approach exporting. Effectively, you're not going to be able to compete on purely manufacturing in the traditional sense. But then how do you get around that? You'll get around that with what like the quality. We were talking about how like smaller countries in Europe, the types of goods are very high level. Like for example, Switzerland will do watchmaking. I don't know if it's. I think it's Luxembourg. Luxembourg with so
banking,
it's how it's what you thinking, how you change your approach to manufacturing so that it's more in line with the level of skills that you are. That you can be competitive in, like tech.
So they're banking obviously on tech.
What my argument is, and it comes back to what China did when they were insulated themselves. China could not export to anyone. When you insulate yourself, right?
But do you think
if America does the same approach of insulating itself from the rest of the world, right? You can't insulate yourself and then still want to do business with the people.
No, but what I'm saying is, I think, and look, maybe, and I'm not sure if that's his thinking, right? But because
I don't know if there is a thinking.
Like, I'm sure to a certain point,
I promise you,
it's risk. It's risk and reward. If you risk it and you fail, you fail.
Some people are close to, they say, we don't know what this guy is thinking. But like, are you going to G20? I'm not sure. I'll see. Maybe I'll send someone.
I'm not going, but now I'm going again.
Keep them guessing. Confuse the enemy.
I think he's confused himself. But anyway.
But so what I'm saying is, maybe from my point, again, it's just perspective, right? Perspective is that we've built over the years good and great brands. Apple, Google, the top 5, top 10 biggest companies, chances are they're American. You know what I mean? And we built such good brands that are already exporting all over the world, that people have habituated to using
and taking advantage of China's relative fear of opening up further.
Yes.
Look, and I think let's take Apple for instance. Right? Apple is not manufactured in the US.
Yes.
It's manufactured in China.
Yes.
Right? And as a result, they are then able to export it.
Yes.
Because it's at a cost that they can export. Now, if you insulate yourself, right, then it means that you need to bring those Chinese jobs back to the US.
Yes.
Right? Which then means
takes longer, obviously.
Takes longer. It's no longer affordable, not even to the people who are manufacturing it in the US. So that's what you have done. But also because you have broken those relationships, right, you are not unable to export it back to the world.
But on the other end, look at what they're doing with Qualcomm. Qualcomm is
they're building a factory in America.
Their chip manufacturing. TSMC is also building as well.
And all these other things. And the world right at the moment. And that's what I'm saying, Doc. They maybe are banking on the fact that, and especially what you said, what was Mr. Gabuza here saying, the thing is, things like tech, is the world knows. When you say tech, they think what? The
Silicon,
US. You know what I mean? And because they think of tech, maybe from a manufacturing point of view, they want to deal with tech.
Look, tech was built on the economy pre-Trump.
100%.
Yeah. He's changing that economy. That's what I'm saying.
In fact, think of it this way, Doc. Silicon was made in the US. They were doing it from the US. And they offloaded the silicon chips and everything else, and TSMC did it better, right? In Hong Kong. And in Taiwan, in Taiwan. And they obviously now bringing it back, and they obviously were doing it pre-Trump. In fact, post-Trump, before pre-Trump number 2. You know, they put all this money in to manufacture chips because you don't need labor for chips. You need certain type of specific labor, but you can get that. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to get to is it's very hard. I mean, human beings are human beings. The psychology of a human being is change is hard, right? So if I'm already using Apple, it's easy if I can't afford Apple to go to Windows. But because I'm habituated to Apple and I have Apple everything, I would rather save a bit more and take that hit to still get that Apple, even though it's 5,000 rand more.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever thought that? And that's what I'm saying, the psychology of people and how you bank on the fact that people will always stay the same is so brutal. And whoever thought that a phone, this thing, guys, this thing, will be selling for 50,000. You know what I mean? A used car can sell for 30,000. This thing is selling for more. I remember there's this way when one of the iPhones came out and someone put the iPhone there and they put this Audi A4 from the past that was selling for 54,000. And they were like, guys, have we gotten to this place? And there are people buying it. And that's what I'm saying to say, so the brands are so strong.
I don't think so. I'll put it to you that the world is ready to move away from the US. And China is replacing that.
Sure.
Not only with tech, well, not only with manufacturing, but also with tech. I mean, the fastest growing EV car in the world is not Tesla. It's BYD.
But why is it BYD?
Because it's affordable.
Well, it is affordable, fair.
And it's affordable, and also because China has an export mind that's open to the world.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Tesla is manufactured in the US.
And in China.
Well, and in China, yes, true. But if you cut that relationship between the US and China, then it means that it's going to be manufactured in the US. The US does not have that manufacturing prowess. One. So it's gonna make EV cars expensive, right? One.
Well, okay, Doc, there's a difference as well, though, right? Just before you go into number two, you can manufacture most something in China for the Chinese and for the rest of the world. The tariffs is only for coming into America.
Well, yes, not true,
and that's why you can build.
And even in the countries where tariffs aren't as big, BYD hasn't taken off in the way that it has locally.
It's not even about tariffs. It's about brand USA being what it is now.
Yeah.
Because the tariffs are for now. The brand trust for USA is gone.
Well, I wouldn't say gone. I think it's premature.
Yes.
I think it's premature.
I think what is happening, what Trump has done, it has shown that you can't trust the US brand. Because today, even if there is Obama who comes back in the next elections, right? We don't know who's going to come after Obama. So that trust, it's a serious damage. And I think is we underplay the damage that Trump is doing to the US.
No, not so. My thing is from a geopolitical 100% can be tarnished, but from a brand products that come from Germany. Yeah, because some people don't even know that Tesla comes from America.
Well, remember, geopolitics informs economics, right?
No, it does, but at a high level.
And
on the ground.
And I also think that to say that we are going into an era of Chinese it's a bit too soon, because China has its own issues that might prevent it from becoming a dominant power.
No, for sure. I mean,
and they're not small issues. They're fundamental party and political issues that could prevent them from doing so.
What America is doing is fast tracking that thing, that
what?
move, that shift
to China.
Because we can't deny that there is a shift.
So the thing is, Doc, and here's the difference as well. So I'll give you. We spoke about cars a few months back, and how the Chinese brand cars are taking over, right? Because they're looking at longevity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still, in them looking at longevity, doesn't mean that brand cars are still going to be... Someone will still look at a Mercedes-Benz and aspire towards a Mercedes-Benz rather than a Haval, right? And the same, someone would rather go for Toyota than a Haval or for Sherry. You know what I mean? And because the brand itself is still not as strong. Yeah. Yes, over time it can be. You know what I mean? But you're not looking at it from people still don't believe that China still has to do that work to make people trust that they work, that the products are quality, you know, whilst people like America, like Japan, like they prove it. So psychologically, someone will still go for a brand that is, so that's, I'm like, from a at the ground level, I don't think it's hitting home, because people don't even know that there are tariffs. People don't know that Apple is facing that, because if they don't see the news, and if that's not their interest, the younger generation actually doesn't even know.
So I'm saying, and this is what these guys are saying, that we need to look at the form.
Yeah.
You are looking at what US has built in the past. I'm saying going forward, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
They are still having a brand in terms of product, or Apple is this brand, blah, 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 blah. Going forward, if you were to put your 10, 15-year lens looking in the future, the brand USA is damaged. 1. 2, if somebody who comes after Trump continues, still the Republicans.
So that's like 8 years then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That damage, right, is still going to be entrenched. And my argument is the world is moving away from the US. They after what's happening, they are deciding we cannot trust this brand. Long term, we cannot trust this brand. And therefore, we need to reposition ourselves. And if you were to look in the next 10, 15 years, maybe Chinese products are not as entrenched now. But if you are thinking future-wise, you are going to have to think outside the US.
So, let's put it this way.
For now, yes.
You know what the one thing about America that they unstable, the fact that they're unstable politically. In fact, actually, let me go back. Again, going back to Ray Dalio. I think the change from people moving from the US is not because of Trump. It's because of America. Has always been. And America fighting amongst each other.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that today we could go to a Paris agreement, tomorrow we're canceling it. That is why people have always done that. Not necessarily because of Trump. And that's why I say, to a certain point, and why I think maybe, what's his name? Why Warren would still say, listen, I still think we can still be a great country. From a point of what we've already built, that you can destroy it only so much. The fact that tech is tech in America, it doesn't take away, and China will not. And this is again maybe it's a bit more. It's also a bit of a controversial thing. I don't think China will even get to America because
I also don't think it, because I don't think it's.
Innovation.
They would have to, the Communist Party will have to do things they don't want to do.
Yes.
And that's why I don't think Chinese dominance is a thing.
Look, they can become the biggest economy.
Yeah.
That's a different story. But innovation and what it represents.
No, for sure. And I think I'm not arguing against that. I think what I'm getting at is even before Trump, the world was moving away from the US.
Yes.
Right? There's always been this unhappiness anyway with the American system or the Americanization of the world.
Yeah.
So there's always been this shift.
Yeah.
Whether it was Obama or pre-Obama, there's always been this shift away from the US.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is what Trump has done is he's fast-tracked that realization.
Yeah.
That we have always suspected that we need to move away from the US.
Yeah.
But what Trump has done is he has actually
proven
confirmed that actually this is why we need to move away from the from the US. Of course, tech, it is so entrenched that
in the world
that it's not going to be very easy to unseat it. Right? But I'm saying in terms of the economy being as powerful as it used to be, right? It's going to, especially if they isolate even their allies, the people that they've built this economy on, Canada, Mexico, and Europe. If you isolate yourself from those are the pillars that the American economy is built on. Right. If you cut ties with those, it's a matter of time. It's a house of cards.
You know what, Doc? And maybe actually, now that I think of it as well, I think we might also be overthinking how much it will affect them, right? Because if you think of what China is doing as well, China is still a closed country. We can say all we want. They are still a closed country, but they control who comes in. And that's probably what this man is trying to do. He's trying to build on, listen, we need to actually control who comes in. Because everyone will still want to go to America, you know what I mean? And because they got the best universities, they got the most innovative, you know what I mean? They can still attract who they want, but now they want to, maybe they want to close the tap and realize who actually is coming. Because the same problem of people staying on the streets, people whatever, is all part of people are just coming in. We're just letting everyone in. And we don't actually know who's coming in enough for us to say, listen, we actually don't want you. We want you, Gabuza, because you've got so much wisdom.
So, and I think that's the thing, right? China is a closed economy, but China has got allies.
Yeah.
Right? They go out there, they build infrastructure, they do all these things.
Yeah.
They obviously are not sort of isolating themselves to say we're not participating in all these global
wars and
right. But I think what I'm getting at is what the US is doing is what China did in the 80s. And we know what the result is.
Yes.
That China was left behind.
Yes.
We can talk about the decade of, but they call it the century of humiliation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They call it the century of humiliation, where they felt they were humiliated and they closed themselves. Right, for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's where all famine and all those things were
happened.
entrenched, right? And they decided, no, this is not working. Let's open ourselves up. Let's get involved in global institutions, right? And what I'm saying is that's what the US is doing.
Yeah.
Right? They are adopting the China approach. You know, remember, China was a global power at some point in the world.
They were the biggest.
But they lost it. They lost it, right?
Because of fighting internally.
Yes, and I'm saying is history
and
does
isolation.
And isolation. And what I'm saying is history does repeat itself.
100%.
Maybe not repeated, but it drives.
And
the Americans are not excluded from that.
I think maybe, and again, maybe the institutions themselves won't allow for Trump to do what he's doing. And that's what's going to help them.
He's
won't
destroying the institutions.
Well, he is, but he's also, he can't, as you said now, he wants to fire someone, but because of the institutions, he can't.
Look, I mean, he's going it about the other way. And I don't know if you've heard what he's trying to do.
Yeah, he's trying to fire Powell. Yeah,
he's trying to fire Powell, and he knows he can't.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is scandalizing.
Scandalizing his image, saying he's the one ruining the economy.
Scandalizing him.
Yeah.
And of course,
it's marketing, basically.
Of course, then there's
tarnished name, and then
and of course then there is the Senate, and there's all these other things that he can employ. But what I'm getting at is, guys, the US is powerful now, but it doesn't mean you cannot lose it.
I don't think there will ever be a country or a nation that stays in power for more than 100 or 200 years. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole thing of generations come, and the generations that come are actually the ones that destroy. A rich family can be rich for so long before someone there, Malesela, comes there and blows it all on control. you know what I mean?
So, and I'm saying in the history, 100 years from now, this Trump period will be that period.
I don't think it's the Trump period per se, Doc. I just think it's America being America. Again, Dre Dalio actually paints it properly.
But that whole
is that somewhere, somehow, there will be this nation that also realizes, actually, guys, we can beat these guys.
Yeah, but you need to have that pivotal moment that says this is where it started. It was on a decline.
I think it was always on a decline. In fact, I think from
we agree.
The mid-2000s.
We agree. But I'm saying the realization.
Okay, it was because of this.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because you need to have you need to have what they call the thing that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
And I would go as far to say is the moment they started offshoring in the late 70s, 80s as well, the financialization was probably the beginning
of the fall.
Of the fall.
Because they relied too much on, in fact, what they thought was going to be great for them by hedging everything against the dollar and everything. It's you have a target against your back.
It was good in the moment, but in the long term, I think started the
So what's the lesson?
Well, there's many lessons I can learn.
There's a lot.
I mean, starting from the population thing, right? The population thing is a very hard thing because actually, maybe this is what I wanted to say about the population thing. And I wanted to say is people actually don't realize how pressures bring pressures can affect a nation without them realizing. I mean, right now I have a child, but because we're educated, my wife and I, we realize we can't afford to have 5 kids. We would love maybe to have 5 kids, but we can't afford, right? Right now, we can afford this 1 kid. Once hopefully things go better, we can afford another one. So we can actually plan. Family planning is the actual real thing. But family planning is because of the fact that
you are educated,
You are educated, one, and we don't actually have the finances to actually move and say, okay, we're going to grow our family. You know what I mean? And it's actually what happened with Japan, is that the guys that actually still have the money, they still have the money. I mean, we can say what they have.
But also the infant mortality rate is in people have a lot of kids because in other countries it's a reality that some of your kids might not make it past 3 years old.
Exactly.
In fact, that's one of the reasons why in other African countries people had lots of kids.
Multiple kids, because you risk.
We didn't have advances in medical health. So if there was a virus, some of the kids were
wiped out.
So
Yeah, hopefully one will not. Will survive.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, is that something as simple as education can drive a nation.
So are we then risking the higher, the more educated the country?
Well, no. I
It's
think
not
yes
a-
and no. Yeah, it's
You don't know it's a risk.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't know it's a trade-off until you're there.
Yes.
And I think a
But
lot of
Japan is there.
because they realize.
and it's not just a Japanese problem, by the way.
it's a global
Everywhere in the globe, every developed country has population concerns.
Yes.
Because the moment you become as you were saying,
But then how do you
People just
balance
have-
the two? Because the more educated people, you want people who are educated.
100%.
But you know that when people are educated, they're going to have less.
that is a solution for people way more well versed.
For these guys.
Yeah, these guys. I don't even think it's not just because
Yeah.
it's an anthropologist
Anthropologist,
issue as well.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so again, from that point, the lesson is we don't know.
you must have kids. Why? You didn't have kids.
Dog, we want a house as well, so that we don't ever have to pay someone the rent.
No, man, the kids will eat what you eat. You will share.
It's true. It's true. Kids will eat what you eat.
But we want educated as well, So these days you take them to a public school, which in the past was good. But now you have to pay tax, double tax. So again, I don't necessarily know what the lessons would be around that. It's actually, it will be fun to realize and to
find out
actually,
what would be.
Okay, if you were to apply this to business, what would the lesson be?
So from a business point of view, from building a country, my lesson for me.
Building a business.
Yeah, building a business for me is, I think you just have to take it one day at a time and understand what's happening so that you build onto, you almost have to take, in the Bible, there's a scripture that says in Psalms 119, your word is a light upon my path and a lamp on my feet. Is that lamp on your feet is that do what you can on that day and then move from there onto the next day and then move from there onto the next day. We plan for ahead. We want to be $1 billion company or $1 billion company or whatever. But how we get there, we shouldn't be fixated on how to get there, because the problem about being fixated is that you miss on certain things because I know it will always work, and then you end up shooting yourself in the
And
foot.
also, another, I'm not sure where, but change is constant. Constant. In Ecclesiastes talks about how change.
There's nothing
is,
new under the sun.
and that one thing will be like this today.
But tomorrow
it will be very different. So I think the biggest lesson is that you have to be prepared for change. Doc, you were talking about Botswana and how Botswana was clapping for themselves for so long. They didn't realize that now they needed to change. The world is changing. They couldn't, and now they have to play catch up again. So change is constant. I think is the one, and you have to prepare yourself for it.
On your side, Doc?
No, I think it's a combination, right? You obviously have to prepare for what's coming, right? But I think also you kind of, so I mean, we just reviewed when breath becomes that yes, we focus on the future of what's coming, but also the journey is the reward, right? That as you are focused on the future, enjoy.
Yes,
every step of the way. It shouldn't be that you'll only be happy
when you get
arrive.
there.
You need to be happy as
where you
as
are,
part of the journey.
Like the great Steve Compella said.
Yes. That's my man.
You buy those shoes.
That's my
Cook yourself that meal.
So it's a combination of that. But I think also if you are building a business, you also need to understand that you also have to have that succession, right? Or a combination of the seasoned and the ones that are not seasoned.
The new. So you have to hand over over time.
And I think there has to be. I think what made Silicon Valley great was the combination of the two.
Yeah.
You know, we everybody talks about how these young tech founders always had somebody older who was in business
to take over.
So having an older generation that embraces, because oftentimes like, hey, I've been doing this for 30 years. You can't tell me what to do. You know, but also the young person saying, I have new ideas. Your ideas are old. You know, you can't tell me what you do. It doesn't work anymore. You know, having the balance between
those two,
young ideas and embracing young ideas with old insight. And I think that's what makes things,
embrace old ideas with new insight.
With new insights.
New insight,
insights, energy,
and so on and so forth.
Because that will fuel going forward.
That fuels growth,
Is that the part?
That is the part. Take us away. Take us away, my chainman.
Make those babies. Thank you so much, guys. Like, subscribe, share, comment.
Yes.
You know,
I actually enjoyed this episode.
And be responsible in having those babies, guys.
Yes.
Your children will thank you for having more children.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank
See you
you.
next episode.
Bye.